Everyone, thank you for choosing my channel. This story is called The Real Bored Housewife of Saratoga Trail by Tabitha Jane. While this story may or may not be loosely based on a true crime story, is up to you. I like to say that in my creative effort, I do 80% of truth and 20% of creative genius, or whatever you'd like to call it. But don't focus on the details, just kind of go with the story. See if this makes sense. If it doesn't, it doesn't. No problem. If it does, take it for what it is and build upon it for your own thoughts and see how you can further build on and make sense of what is the unthinkable and what is often nonsense, to be quite honest. Now, I am creating this video for entertainment purposes only. This is not to be used or fact or education. This is me putting my best insight into what nobody knows, because nobody was there that night except for two people, and only one person is alive. And if I go back and I look through everything and I see it, and based on my personal experiences in life, I look at how this could have happened. Looking into my crystal ball, but I don't have a crystal ball, right? So, once upon a time, there was this beautiful woman. She really was. And if you'll listen to my first story, and it is called The Queen of the Dirty South, you'll understand chapter 1 of how this all began. So we go from the real queen of the queen of the Dirty South, and we come to this point, to the point where she's the real board house of Saratoga Trail. I like to say Saratoga Lane for this creative thing, but it just doesn't flow right. It does flow right to say lane, but it was trail. So I don't know what to do here. Let's see. Let's try it with. Let's just try it here. And either way, if this isn't up your alley, don't worry about it. Don't write me a manifesto. Just go choose something else to listen to, or create your own channel with your own thing and figure out how things happened to what you think happened or didn't happen. It's really easy to start your own channel. Anybody can. If they have their own username, you can just do it. You can do it. So, without further ado, the real bored housewife of Saratoga Lane flows better than trail, so let's go there. All right, so she was fresh out of this little snafu in her hometown where she was working, and a large amount of money went missing. She had her own beautiful house, and she had a plan. She was freshly divorced. She had a beautiful house. She was going to have that house for a while, sell it for a profit, get another house, and work until she was mortgage free by buying and selling. She thought that building a brand new house is the way to do that, and putting in really expensive furniture. Not saying that she was the brightest real housewife, but that was her plan, however it was or wasn't. So, this large sum of money was missing, and it was well known that she bragged about when she wanted that house built, they weren't taking her seriously. So she came with a suitcase of 50 grand, cash in a suitcase, and said, "Now, will you build for me?" And they were like, "Whoa, yeah." That's actually part of the story that's supposedly true. Now, the fact that a certain amount of money was missing from her employer, and this part of the story started coming together, and they shouldn't have, because if they did, all hell was going to break loose. And what happened when it did? You guessed it. It did. it happened. She was accused of being responsible for that large amount of money missing from her employer. And she was so stressed. That kind of stress, where you can't eat, you can't sleep, you feel sick, you've convinced yourself that you're going to die, that you look in the mirror and you see somebody else and your hair is falling out. You can't eat, you can't sleep. Soon your body is shutting down. The stress is out of control and you go to the doctor because there's got to be something wrong. You're not in your mind thinking that the stress of being accused of embezzlement is what's actually wrong. But, you go to the doctor and he sends you to a specialist, and that specialist, gets all excited that first visit, does all these tests, has you come back, says nothing's wrong. Try Metamucil. It happens. So then somebody else, tells you, no, you're sick. Go to another specialist. So you go to another specialist and they say the same thing. Oh yeah, this, we're going to rule out this, we're going to rule out this, we're going to rule out this. And soon you've told everybody that you're sick. And so the focus of that snafu and why you're not working at the place where the large sum of money was missing even matters, that you don't have a job there and you don't have enough money to make your house payment and you don't know what to do. It doesn't even matter because everybody is so concerned that you're sick. And who's going to prosecute a dying woman, right? No problem. Daddy worked with the big boss anyway, and Daddy was going to smooth things over because Daddy always did. It was like, look, she didn't do it. And, she's learned her lesson if she did. She's sick. You're not gonna put a dying woman in jail, are you? She's dying. She's got something wrong with her. And finally, one specialist suggests lupus. It fits. I mean, the hair loss, the can't eat, just not feeling good all around. Everybody's saying you look sick and just losing weight. You've got diarrhea. Everything. He suggested lupus. You Google lupus. You told other people that it's lupus. They all tell you about their cousin's in-laws, cousin that has lupus, and they all know it too. And soon, you have lupus. Because everybody says you have lupus. And your parents believe you have lupus. And you believe you have lupus. So when you get the technical call back from the doctor that you don't have lupus, and you tell the doctor, but you already said, it's on a continuum, and we can recheck it, and you don't hear you have lupus. Okay? And so that fits. Go with that story. Because if you didn't have anything, it would just look like a guilty conscience. And the real bored housewife of Saratoga was not going to be accused of feeling guilty or anything, because what was she going to feel guilty of? Taking that large amount of... Right? And bottom line was, she met this guy. And he wasn't everything. But she was out of a divorce. She was bored. She couldn't keep up with anything anymore. The party lifestyle was over. She didn't have any money. She didn't have enough money to make this house payment. She was overspent. Every amount of money that she made was gone. When she was working for her boss, she had the whole lifestyle, right? He let her drive the black flashy Escalade, and when she had that job, it was a lifestyle. It was the music. It was the clothes. It was the men. It was the parties. And all of a sudden, she couldn't do any of that because they're saying that she took that money. Why would they say that she took that money? Why? What difference did it make if she had a suitcase full of cash? Didn't everybody who was working there go and build a brand new, beautiful house just the same as the owner? Should have. No one's saying that they couldn't have. She did. Why shouldn't she have what he did? She babysat for them. She saw what they had. Why shouldn't she have that? Just because his wife didn't want her to babysit anymore, and so He gave her a better job. Didn't matter. But she was babysitting for other people anyway. And you know what? This guy that she started dating, you know what he did? He didn't get grossed out when she had to go through the prep of a colonoscopy because she has lupus. But what's the difference between lupus and stomach cancer? Because she told people she had both. There are many people who believe that she had stomach cancer. People were saying she had cancer. They were bothering the boss. Like, come on. She's facing cancer. She's a young, vibrant woman with colon cancer and cancer, lupus. Something was just wrong with her. Wrong with her. Those accusations. Well, she's facing this. Which came first, the accusations or the illness? I don't know. But she babysat. And you know what? The couple that she was babysitting, they were moving to Colorado. She was sick of going around and having to hear about everything. Everybody telling her that she looked sick and everybody asking her those questions about what was going on with her job and everything else. And even her own family was looking at her weird. Her own dad, he looked at her weird, like, did you do this? How could he even ask her? Huh? How could he ask her? She got a divorce. It was so dumb because they were always asking her, when are you going to give me grandkids? She said to them, she can't have kids. Don't they understand? She can't have kids. As in, doesn't want, will not have kids. It's not in her big life vision board, if you will. She wanted a beautiful house. She wanted a hot car. She wanted the hot clothes. She wanted the hot music. She wanted the hot men. She wanted the liquor-free pouring. She wanted that life. And why couldn't she find a man like that to do that for her? Well, until she could, she was going to have this guy who sat with her for everything. He was as good as a lapdog. I mean, really. He even let her be on his lap. He had to pee, and he didn't even wake her up. He had to pee, didn't wake her up. Took her to her colonoscopy, all that. You know what? She said he's a keeper after that. So, she put her house on the market. Figured she was going to get some money for a new start somewhere. Why not Colorado? She could make her boyfriend, do anything. She told him, let's speed up the wedding and let's go to Colorado. I can be a nanny for these people that I already babysit for. They're moving. She has a new job now because she just graduated college and they need a nanny. You can get a job anywhere. You're a mechanic. And he was like, but my family's here. And she's like, my family's here too, so what? Don't you want me? And he did. He did. He loved her. He thought everything about her was beautiful, even the way she walked. He loved her. She could do no wrong in his eyes. She was the stars, sun, and the moon. There was nothing better to him than Shanann. And she thought, why not? She told her mom. She's like, Mom, I met somebody. He's a mechanic, waiting for the afterthought or the shock because her mom was going to be like, a mechanic? Are you kidding? Shanann, come on. That's not going to be able to support you. But to her surprise, she said, as long as he makes you happy. She was like, what? What? So, with that, her mom knew it was good. Get her remarried, get her back on track so she didn't have to talk to everybody about why she divorced. Her first husband was not bad at all. He was an attorney, a military man. There was no good explanation for why she stopped coming home at night to him. He tried marital counseling. She refused to go back. The marital counselor wanted her to look into her past. The marital counselor started asking her questions, and nobody asks the real bored housewife of Saratoga Lane a question. Don't ask Shanann questions. Okay? And in fact, her name wasn't even Shanann to that point. When she moved, she made her name spelled a little differently because she thought that people could not find her easily if she put her name as Shan-Ann. Shan-Ann. And it was supposed to be said like that, Shanann-Ann. And she wanted Christopher to do the same thing, so he'd be Christopher. Cool, right? The dream couple, the one that everybody was looking at, the one that had that love that you can't find just anywhere. She had it. She knew she had it. She knew that when she looked at Christopher, he looked at her the way men should look at a woman. And other people were looking at them like they were the ones that had it all. And she was going to make sure they did, no matter what. So, she had her mom help with the wedding. Things did not go well from the beginning with his side of the family. Okay? Not at all. His side of the family looked at her like she was not what they had in mind. And to her, they should have looked at her like she was. She was the queen. She was the reigning queen of the dirty South. She was a queen. What was wrong with them? Why are they not looking at her like she's a queen? And whatnot, with all of her sickness and everything. She was told she was gluten intolerant. And so, you know what? They even messed it up at her bridal shower. Not only did nobody show up, but all of the food there, they poisoned, they cross-contaminated. They made it so that she couldn't even eat there. But as her mom said, Mom had food for her so that she could eat, because they didn't even do that right. It didn't mean anything that nobody showed up. The story was, they didn't send out the invitations. She had her mom on her side, looking down at this family because they didn't look at her in the way that she felt they should. They questioned her. They questioned the fact that she had been married before. What does it matter? Christopher's sister had been married before. So what was wrong with her being married before? What difference did that make? She was taking Christopher away from them because with them, he was stupid like them. She said so herself. And if he wants to be stupid, he can live with them. If he wants to go and be with her and be a real man, they're going to Colorado, and they did. It didn't matter that his parents raised him to be a good man, a good provider, a good friend, a good son, a good employee, a good mechanic. They put him through NASCAR mechanic school. He loved being a mechanic. His parents loved him so much. The kind of unconditional love that a family is supposed to have, they had that. And Christopher had that, and so he showed that. And he showed Shanann unconditional love. She had never had that. Her love, she believed, was conditional with her mother. Conditional with her father. Conditional. She believed that if her parents thought that she was doing well and had everything and had money, they loved her. And they loved her more than her brother. And that's what she wanted. She always wanted to be number one. So she went to Colorado, changed her name a little bit, thought nobody was going to come after her about that stupid accusation of embezzlement. Whatever did or didn't happen, if she did take that money, she was owed it anyway because she worked harder than anybody there. She was just as good as the owner there. So if she did take it, so what? It wasn't like it was a whole lot of money. He could remake that. So she thought. So she went to Colorado. The people that she nannied for were paying her, so they didn't have a house payment. It was wonderful. It was a wonderful setup for newlyweds. They had their own living space. They could go out on dates. They could have fun. And as she said, she couldn't have children. Lot of words built into couldn't, didn't want, wasn't going to. She liked to babysit kids and then be done with them. She liked to be paid to watch kids so she could do everything else that she needed to do and give them back at the end of the day. That's as much as she ever wanted to have with children. That's that. There is nothing in between. She was a babysitter. She was that kind of babysitter that you have when you tell your parents it's her. All right. Not the one that was fun. Not the fun babysitter. It's that babysitter where you're like, oh, great. Great. She's going to sit there and chew her gum and watch TV and ignore you. So it's fine. You can get away with anything you like. But it's not going to be the fun babysitter that plays games with you and likes you. Nah, that's not the one. So anyway, as time went by, she got a little bored because that's what she does. She was the real bored housewife. She got a job working with Christopher at the auto dealership, and it worked great. They were that couple. Everybody could see them. They could see the love they had, and they could see that she was hot, that everybody there wanted her. And when she'd go up to Christopher, all the other mechanics would look. Oh, yeah, she had that kind of a look. Mm-hmm. She did. She knew it. She worked it. She loved it. Christopher loved it, too. Yes, he did. She got to get away from a crying baby, all that stuff that comes along with nannying. She was done watching the kid. But Christopher, well, Christopher started becoming very, very unhappy. He missed his mom and dad. He missed his family back home. His dad, when Christopher went off to mechanic school when he was 18 and left the home, Dad developed a chemical dependency issue. His dad started doing blow. His dad loved his buddy Christopher. His son was everything to him. And he didn't ever see somebody coming and taking him away, controlling him. Christopher wasn't himself anymore. He was now Shanann's husband. He was no longer Christopher Watts from North Carolina that went to NASCAR, that had a loving mom and dad and a sister. He had friends. He didn't talk to them anymore. He didn't talk to his parents anymore. He was in Colorado. The only thing he was supposed to think of was Shanann and what Shanann wanted and what Shanann said. And he worked every day so that he made money for Shanann to do what she needed to do with the money so that they could get a house. And he imagined, a practical house, right? A little ranch house, a couple of kids. Even though she said she couldn't have kids, he thought he'd be able to talk her into it. I mean, she says no, but she means yes, right? Well, when payday hit, it became a little joke. They'd go and they'd have the envelopes, they'd hand everybody their checks, and Christopher's would be there, and nope, Nope, nope. Does he get it? Does he get it? No. It goes straight to Shanann. Everybody knew it. And they were the hot couple. She was top sales, as her mother said. And he was the best mechanic there. She was making good money. He was making money. And the two of them had everything. And so they were able to get that beautiful house. They started driving around and looking at houses, and Christopher was totally looking at something different than what she was. She didn't mind dealing with what he thought he wanted. He just needed a little guidance. Like, oh, that's nice. I mean, what would you do? Do you want to be a scum? You want to be scummy? Because if you live there, you'd be scummy. You don't want to be scummy, do you? No, 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 no. Okay, and so I it up, and this is what we can qualify for. We've saved this much. We did this much. You know what? This is the house we can get. And Christopher was like, I can't afford that. I don't make that much money. And she said, I'm top sales. I know what I make. I know what you make. This is what we can get. Not exactly go that way, because on the loan documents, she's not even on the house. She was put on there after the loan. He was able to write her on there. But as far as her being able to qualify for that house, no. That was Christopher Watts's home. His income did it, because he did not have a history like she did. She came in being an overspender. She came in having the house that she had built. She had to sell it, not even for a profit, with all of the beautiful furniture that she put in there, all of the upgrades that she had put in there. She had to sell it and break even. And there were credit cards that she hadn't paid off and all that good stuff. When she left there, and she left it all behind. Christopher, on the other hand, had been very responsible with everything that he'd ever done. He didn't even like credit cards. He didn't really understand them. She wants this big house. She wants the big house. And all of a sudden, she was happier than she'd been in a long time. She was excited. She was happy. And who was he to tell her no? If it made Shanann happy, it made him happy. Because what he didn't like was when Shanann was mad. One time they got in a fight, and she brags about beating him all the way outside, put him on the porch and locked him outside. And until he could behave again, she wouldn't let him in. But that was okay, because he knew that he did something bad, and he didn't want to upset her again. He never wanted to upset Shanann. That was his life. So there they are. Got this beautiful house. Beautiful house was quiet. And he kept talking to her about having a baby. And she would say things like, Chris, I told you I can't have a baby. I can't have a baby. And he was like, just one. Wouldn't it be fun to just have one? Just one. And she'd say, Christopher, I can't. My health? Are you kidding? There's no way I could carry a baby with my lupus. Are you crazy? Are you trying to kill me? Do you want me to die? And he was like, no. And every time they had relations, she'd take a shower first. He had to wear a condom. And that was that. There was not going to be a baby. But he kept begging her. He kept begging her. And she didn't want a freaking kid. She did not want a kid. She liked babysitting kids, but she didn't want the messes they make, the crying, the 24/7. It wasn't her. But as that house became quieter and all of the neighbors were there and they had kids, and she softened just a little bit and put away the condoms, and she became pregnant with Bella. And Chris was so happy because he wanted a baby. He wanted to give his parents a grandchild. Her parents would be happy. They were okay. Everything was going to be okay. She worked then at a children's hospital. She worked from home in her office. She answered phones for people who were calling into the children's hospital at night. She was able to do that and work the switchboard, and she didn't have to go out of the house for work anymore. She was getting carpal tunnel syndrome at the dealership, and so she was able to go to the doctor and do some physical therapy and everything. And ultimately, Workman's Comp decided to give her a settlement for that, and she thought that was great. So then, she's working at the children's hospital after she quit the dealership. She's working from home. She's got Bella. She sold things on the side like 31, LuLaRoe. She sold Amway with her dad, so she always kind of wanted to do something with MLMs, always off to the side. She sold the cosmetics. That was kind of her way of still making her mind work. She had her baby. She worked nights. She had everything she needed at home, but wasn't happy, wasn't feeling like there was enough. And she had Christopher quit his job too because they were able to get a little money from him having carpal tunnel syndrome too. She knew the way it worked out for her, so she had him do the same thing. They got that little windfall when they needed that money, and she had him get a different job. And that's how he got the job working for the oil company. So he worked from 6 in the morning-ish till about 4 in the afternoon-ish. She was alone all day, and then she worked night shift, and they had Bella, and things were okay. They were okay for a while, but they weren't great. She became more and more unhappy. She became almost unrecognizable. She wasn't herself. She wasn't putting on her makeup. She wasn't doing her hair. She was just not Shanann. So she was reaching out to her mom, and she was telling her mom that she couldn't do it. That, it was just too much, that Bella's always sick. She's always crying. She is tired. She can't have any time to herself. She didn't want to do this anymore. She knew she couldn't have kids, but Christopher made her do it. Christopher talked her into it. And her mom was like, yeah, those men, they're always trying to tie you down with a baby. And she was getting really, really, really depressed. And her mom knew it. And her mom wanted grandbabies, and her mom talked to her husband, and they were like, we've got to do something. And so they sold everything and they came out there and they moved in. They moved in for 16 months. And shortly thereafter, Shanann was pregnant again with Cece. And Cece was the kind of baby that was up from daybreak to dawn and didn't sleep. That the nighttime did not affect this baby. And the only way that she could deal with it was what she had read. She had read in a book, because that's how she had gotten the schedule to deal with Bella when everything was out of control. She needed to do this with Cece too. From the time that Cece came home from the hospital, she had had this routine because, as she said, Cece was one of those kids. And because she had started Cece on the schedule, she could do what she needed to do as a mom. Okay? She had started this other MLM. Her parents were there. Everything was going good. She had the kids on a schedule. With schedules, she could deal with things. When she told her mom that she was going to work, that was behind doors. When she was behind those doors, that was work. That's what it was when she was a receptionist at the Children's Hospital. That door had to be shut for confidentiality. She couldn't have other people hearing what the people were saying. That door was shut. When that door was shut, that meant that Shanann was working. Shanann stopped working at the Children's Hospital and was doing this MLM full time that she liked. And she signed up her mom and her dad too. They were all doing it. And right before Cece was born, she had started being able to go on certain vacations with this MLM that she was selling for. And she liked it. She really liked it. All of a sudden, bad. She was no longer the real bored housewife of Saratoga, Trail, Lane, whatever you want to call it for the purposes of the story. She got to go on vacation. Her parents were there. And you know what? Chris's parents wanted to be there too, so she flew them in because after she went on a couple of vacations, her mom was complaining that all she's doing is going on vacation, so fine. Fly Chris's parents in so when they're out of town, his parents can watch them. Her parents can do whatever. Mom got a job when she was in town, working, cutting hair. Shanann liked mothering this way. She wasn't bored anymore. She liked this, that she could be able to have everything in order. She wasn't bored. She wasn't alone. She started to feel alive again. She started to feel like the queen she once was. She went from a bored housewife, depressed mom, postpartum depression, sick, frumpy, to herself again. She was alive. She went on a couple of vacations before Cece was born. She met some people. She didn't believe her luck because she met 4 people that she knew from high school, and one of them even had the same name as her husband. And it was literally a joke about who was the dad because she encouraged this other man so much. She wanted to see him succeed. And they hung out and they had so much fun. And she had Cece. And, you know, if you didn't ever see a woman hold a torch to a man like she did to this man, you've never seen a woman hold a torch. You see, with her husband, Christopher, he wasn't doing things right. He was always coming up short. He wasn't saying the right things. He wasn't quick. He wasn't suave. He wasn't doing things right. He did everything she asked. And he did everything he was told. But he wasn't doing that like the other Chris was. And when she was with the other Chris, she was super happy. She was the queen again. She was the queen of everything. She came to life and she loved it. And once she was back in there and feeling that she could do this and she could be a mom and she could be a wife and she could go on vacations and she could do all of this and everything was wonderful, she loved life. She smiled from ear to ear. She was charismatic. Everybody wanted to have what she was having. Everybody wanted to do what she was doing. She created a pretty good downline, but she couldn't keep it because MLMs are not meant to make everybody successful. But she has 2 girls. Even her friends joke around about who's the daddy for the young one, you know, because their temperaments are so different. But anyway, it was what it was, and she was happy again, but her mom wasn't exactly happy. Her mom and dad had given up their lives, and now they were raising her kids so she could go and be out of town whenever she wanted. And her mom started calling her on it and saying, look, these are your kids, not my kids. What are you doing? And she was like, my mom's such a bitch. And she was like, what's your problem? Yeah, because you know what? They had problems when she was 18 too. And her mom slapped her when she was 18. She left the house at 18 and never came back. She didn't have anything to do with her parents until she divorced Leonard King, needed them for the wedding to get there. And that was that. When she needed them again, she let them know. And that's when she was not doing well with her postpartum from Bella. And that's that. She had roles for her mother. She let her mother know when she needed her. But otherwise, her mom flat out stressed her out. That was it. Her mom and her dad moved back. But her mom wasn't convinced that her daughter could handle things on her own. Not at all. In fact, her mom confided in a coworker of hers. A coworker who had also signed up for the MLM. And she said, I need you to watch my daughter for me. She's like, I'm not a babysitter. She's like, look, she can't function. She's not like you. She's not a strong woman like you. You do this, you do that. I need you to watch her for me. She's like, I don't want to watch an adult. And she's like, look, just when you're at these things and you're doing this and stuff, just call me. Let me know how things are, please. Please, Nicole, please. And Nicole started, and Nicole had a son, and, you know, her son could help. Her son could babysit. Her son dog sit. Her son, you know, could actually calm Shanann down in ways that nobody else could. So her son helped. She could deal with that and let her son make a little bit of money, but she wasn't going to, you know. It was too much. If she let herself be pulled down by Shanann, her life would become what she just saw Shanann's parents become. So, Shanann got things in order, made sure that everything was straight, made sure that she had the routines that she did, because that's the way that she could deal with things. The way that things ran in that house were very, very disciplined. That's how things had to go. The day started with, and Christopher Watts would wake up. He would go downstairs fill up a bottle of Cece's milk and a water bottle or juice for Bella. And he would take a shower for himself, and then he would unlock the girls' doors. He would then leave for work. His routine changed when the girls started going to daycare. In the morning, he would then make their lunches, pack them, put them in their backpack, and make sure that their backpack was stocked with everything they needed for the day at daycare. Okay? When they started going to daycare, he took them to daycare. Prior to them going to daycare, after he had unlocked their doors, the girls would be able to open their doors and go in, and they'd go into mommy and daddy's bed and they'd watch cartoons while Shanann got herself ready for the day. She had a routine, could take 2 to 3 hours of showering, doing her hair, doing her makeup, and she really didn't like the girls to interfere. Then, and only then when she was done, she would go and make them breakfast. Okay? Now, she would keep them awake until 12 o'clock. From 12 o'clock to 3, they would have a nap. Their nap was behind closed doors with a lock. They were not allowed to come out of that room. 12 to 3 was when she went in her office and she worked her MLM. She had her time. Now, at 3 o'clock, the girls were allowed to come back out. Christopher would be home about 4:30 or 5. She would often make dinner. She learned that the girls like things pretty simple. Frozen pizza, chicken nuggets, etc. Christopher's favorite meal, as we've all heard, was her fried pizza. And then the girls would go and Christopher Watts would give them a bath. He would then do their nightly rectal temperature, help them get dressed, and each one of them then went to read a story to the girls. Christopher read a story to Cece, and Shanann read a story to Bella. They were then put in their beds. Their rain machines were turned on to the absolute highest possible volume, and their doors were shut and locked until the next day to begin again. Christopher Watts would then, when they were put in bed, he would go and wash their clothes, and she informed him that they needed to be washed in cold and hung dry, and he did. He would, when they were in daycare, go and pick them up from daycare. Sometimes she did pick them up from daycare, and a lot of people were in the daycare line and talked about that, and she did meet people. So that goes back and forth whether or not he would pick them up or she would. Either way, she was a stay-at-home mom with her children in daycare, or she was a stay-at-home mom with the children taking a nap from 12 to 3. She loved planning her next trip. The problem was with the MLMs in her position, she could only qualify for 4 trips a year. And those trips don't include the airfare. And the hotel you can share with somebody, but they don't pay for the rental car, your food, daycare if you're not home. So how was she going on all of these vacations? How did that happen? If she was really making all of the money that she said that she was, and is rumored that she was, there would be no problems financially, right? Because what he was making was enough to cover everything. If she was making equal to or more than, as was rumored, than him, they'd be having no problems. Before Cece was born, they had to claim bankruptcy. Her mother said it was because of medical bills. unless Macy's was providing medical services, that's not true. I have also narrated that bankruptcy before Cece was born. You can listen to it. And each Christopher and Shanann had to go to a credit counseling service. And so they had to sign and have notarized that they had went through credit counseling and they knew where all of the bills were supposed to go, which she was the one doing all the bills. So she knew every single bill, where it needed to be paid to and how, and that there was no money left over afterwards. Okay? She certified under oath and had notarized that she knew where the HOA payment needed to go and how much it was. So the baloney that she did was sending it to the wrong place each month is baloney. 100% baloney. So something started not working. She had the perfect routine. She had everything as it was. She goes to the doctor all the time because children get sick. That was not in her routine. She had a routine that was very rigid. When the girls got sick, it messed with her routine. She made a very, very big deal about them being sick. When they got sick, she made such a big deal out of it that people started assuming that her and Christopher had children that were special needs, that were in fact chronically ill with something. And when the girls needed special pillows suggested by the doctor, Shanann had Christopher do a fundraiser at work. If she was in fact making as much or more as him, how were they not able to buy new pillows for the girls? There was no money. When I explained my minimum at the MLM where I was working needed to be $300 every 6 months, and if it wasn't, I needed to buy that much to go and sell. If I had a downline, if anybody in my downline had not hit that minimum 300, I would have to go and buy product to get them each to hit 300. With the MLM she was working, the scales were much higher. Her minimum was $12,000 that she had to hit. And all of the downline needed to hit. So she had to be selling a ton of product. She had to, or she wasn't going to be able to go on these vacations, and she didn't want that. Okay? She had fun. She saw other women having fun. And they were moms too, right? They were moms and wives. They were on these vacations. Were they on all of the vacations as she was? If in her spot she could only qualify for 4, how was she going to, like I say, almost 4 a month? How was this possible? I do believe that there are some that she could have qualified for that would have paid the airline, but not many, and it would have been the cheapest bottom line airfare, and you have to pay conference fees, etc., etc. There was only one way that this was working. She got the lease, right, from her MLM. There were certain cars that you could get with the MLM, and one of them was a Lexus, and she searched it right out. She knew. She sold cars. She knew her cars. If she got that based on what she was selling, why was her name not on that lease? Why was she saying that she won the car? That because of this MLM, she got the car, if in fact it was under his name? How did that happen? As it says later on, as the myth goes, the company gave that car to her parents. Her parents took that vehicle shortly after. It is either a complete lie that she got that, and in fact, she just found out what kind of a car she could qualify for. It was under his name, and they were paying the lease, or her credit was so bad it had to be in his name. And then she made sure she hit those amounts each month by buying in and buying her downline. That then it essentially gave her back the money she was putting in. But let's say that she was putting in several thousand to get back 800. That adds up quickly. Okay. What she was doing, she probably thought she needed to borrow a little bit this month. But next month she'd sell so much that it would go back. That it was just chasing that dragon, that it was this addiction, that she wanted the vacation, she wanted the car, she wanted everything, she wanted to be gone. She wanted to be out partying. She wanted that lifestyle that she loved, the kind of lifestyle where she feels alive. She didn't want to be the bored, depressed housewife on Saratoga that she was. She was just chasing the dream. And basically what she did was she made sure that he wouldn't notice. She kept him busy as could be with the girls, doing everything for them, and she had him convinced that she was doing everything else, and he wasn't asking questions. And when her parents were living there, perhaps they were paying rent. Now we know that she had several people come and stay for extended periods of time, and it is assumed they paid rent. They paid her to stay there, and she was making and using that money for rent. There was very little food. Whenever you see the pantry or whatever, there was very little food. The food that was there was the MLM, because of course she had to buy that. She had to buy that to keep up the appearance, to keep going to all of these vacations, because she was alive. She was happy when she was on the vacations. She took Christopher along to a couple of vacations so that he wouldn't start asking too many questions or get mad. But I can count out 11 different pictures of her with the other Chris, the one that she built up so much. The one where she was wearing that leopard dress that said that she never loses. And shortly thereafter, she conceived her third baby. And now Christopher was not looking like he wanted this third child. Yeah, he said he wanted a boy. And when she was saying that he talked her into it and whatnot, not this time. He talked her into wanting babies because he wanted babies for this big old house that was so quiet and everything else. And people in the neighborhood had kids, and he would look at them and he would want that. And he wanted kids. He didn't talk her into this third one. Things weren't right. She was buying so much product that it is estimated that there was $25,000 worth of product in her basement. That's not that much when you consider how much she had to be selling. Now, her downline could have been selling quite a bit. Her downline was nowhere near what her own husband thought it was. She talked a big game, and she did sell a lot, but she was not making the money back. She was selling to keep that to qualify for the vacations. She checked out mentally. She was no longer Christopher Watts's wife. She was no longer that bored housewife on Saratoga Trail. She was living for the next vacation, the next getaway. She did not live in the present. She was not intimate with Christopher Watts in any sense of the word. Intimacy does not need to be without clothing. Intimacy is talking, it is trusting, it is knowing what the other person is thinking, wanting, needing. She didn't know anything about him at all. She didn't care. She was fascinated with another man named Chris. And Ultimately, the only way that she could go on those vacations was to not make the house payment, not make the HOA payment. We don't know how many other things she was not making the payment for. It could be that she was behind in making the insurance payment for their health care, because when she was saying she was having all of those problems with her health care in North Carolina and she couldn't even go because she was out of network, it may in fact be that she did not make the payments for their health insurance. There's any number of things that could have been wrong, but either way, somebody was making her feel alive. And it is my opinion that that was her possible lover. And when she got pregnant, she knew. A woman knows her cycle. A woman knows when her period is and knows that 2 weeks prior to that is when you're fertile. She knew that she was not with Christopher at that time. When she started missing her period, she got on top of the one that she was married to. She got on Christopher right away to make him believe that it was his baby, because then when she did the oops, we did it again, he was really shocked because he was like, wow, that's quick, right? She had already missed her period. She knew it wasn't his. That's why she was lying about the date of conception. Didn't matter though, she had the image. She had the big house, the Lexus. She had everybody on her Facebook thinking it. And in her mind, she probably was thinking, you know what? I have it all. Everybody thinks I have it all. It's just a matter of time before they're going to buy enough that I'll be able to catch everything up. She didn't stop going on vacation because she was screwing the bills up. The same way that she messed with the money that made her flee North Carolina and come to Colorado in the first place. She had not been back to North Carolina since she fled, since the last time she was cooking the books. And a large sum of money was missing. So all of a sudden, history repeats itself. And her husband, who gets up every morning and does everything for her to provide, that the way that he was raised to be a good son, a good friend, a good mechanic, a good employee, a good father, a good husband, a good neighbor, now a good prisoner. Everything he did was good. Wasn't enough. She wanted more. She was greedy. She went to her parents for money. She had to have. She had to have said, look, I need this much money because I can't do this. I'm behind on the house payment. I'm behind on this. Because her mother knew. Her mother knew about that. She probably called her parents and said, I need you to give me this money. I need you to give me $10,000 or I'm going to lose the house. And they probably were like, we don't have it. And she's like, well, fine. When Chris finds out, he's going to freaking kill me. Because that's what I'd be afraid of if I'd been lying to my husband like that. It is rumors that she had gotten credit cards in her kids' name. She was probably maxing out every single thing she could think of to buy and keep that position that she had forged her way into. And she put stickers on her husband. She told him to make it look like they'd just been jogging together and put it on his Facebook. She put up these false things on his Facebook, and he was tired of it. He was tired of being something that he wasn't. But he didn't ever believe that it was as bad as it was. He still doesn't know to this day how bad it was. We're out here on the outside and we can get the documents and we can see, and he doesn't know. He doesn't want to know. Now, when she got pregnant with a third child, she had a real problem on her hands. She was behind in the house payment, behind on the HOA. She had no money. She was pregnant with what I believe the other man in North Carolina's baby. He is a married man, was a married man with 2 children of his own. It is rumored by others that Cece was also fathered by this one. The pictures, the resemblance is uncanny. I don't know. But the possibility of her then having 2 of his children as well exists. But that was in the back of her mind. Christopher had no idea. He's just going there making the money, right? She goes out, she confides in a friend. Friend goes out to a restaurant with her. Mount Fiji. Mount Fiji would be at a place that is similar to like a Benihana if you've been to, okay? Where you have a communal dinner. It is in a horseshoe where people sit around and you sit with strangers that you don't know. And the chef cooks everything in a communal way and gives everybody what they ordered. You know, it's amazing how they do it, but let's say that, 4 people ordered steak. Well, they know that this 4 and they know who it is and whatever. But either way, you're sitting with people that you don't know. And sometimes people will be quiet and stick to themselves. And then other times they want to introduce each other or say, hey, I'm so-and-so, since we're sharing this table, this is who I am. This is my wife. This is whatever. Well, that's what happened. She was at this place called Mount Fiji. Her friend knew about this 3rd pregnancy. As the story goes, as is in the discovery, there was an attorney at that table. So the attorney introduced himself, and she hooks onto it, and her friend already knows what she's talking about because this attorney that's certified, and it's an attorney that practices for the bar, has a bar number, who's legitimate. So this attorney is a truth teller who respects the law. And he stated that she started asking him all kinds of questions about getting a divorce in Colorado and what that is like with children. And how did this friend know? How was this friend not looking at her like, what the F? And how was she comfortable enough to talk in front of all of these strangers and her friend unless she had not been considering leaving Christopher, getting a divorce, going to North Carolina, and trying to rekindle things? If she had just found out that she was pregnant with her 3rd baby with Christopher Watts, why would she have had divorce on her mind? Unless she knew or had a very good idea that he was not the father. The Mount Fiji is a pivotal moment in this case. The attorney answered several of her questions and gave her his business card and personal cellular number. That was buried in all of this. This whole narrative out there that this happy couple and everything, and he just went and had this affair and blah, 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 blah. No. Why did this happen? Why was her friend with her? Why was she asking about divorce at that point? That was on her mind. Okay? She was out of money. She was desperate. She knew that the house was going to get foreclosed upon. So she had no choice other than to tell Christopher Watts that something had happened with the finances, and who knows what she told him. But she told him he had to get $10,000 out of his retirement fund. She needed to catch up the house payments. He didn't know that they were behind, and nobody knows exactly what he thought about that. But the solution was simple. He'd get this $10,000 out. She'd catch it up. Okay? That's what he thought. We don't know what she said. She could have said anything like she had this unexpected bill, or, she had been doing something else wrong and this happened, or this unexpected cost happened and they needed this $10,000. And so she had to do that and wasn't able to make the house payment, or and was doing this or sending it wrong, whatever she told him. Okay. So he got the $10,000 out. He thinks she's catching up the house. It is my opinion she did not use that money to catch the house up. Here's why I think that. Because she was having Nicole get the mail. Whenever she was out of town, she was having NA go and get the mail. So Christopher would not get the mail saying that the house was going to be foreclosed, being taken back by the bank, etc., etc. Okay? That leads to the night. Okay? Because NA and SW were out of town, right? This problem leads to something else. So go with me on this. She got the $10,000 out. He hands it to her. He thinks that she's catching up the house. It's never going to happen again. It was just a little snafu. She knows what she's doing. She knows she's leaving him, and she's not going to look back. What she did with that $10,000 was she funded herself for leaving him. Now, she didn't go right out and say she was leaving him to him. He knew it on some level. She was being weird. He knew the kid wasn't his that was in her belly, but he's going along with it because she's acting like it, and she can make anybody believe anything, according to her mom, right? What she did is that she wasn't going to stop her little vacations. She flew her dad in from North Carolina to Colorado so that she could go with Christopher out of town, right? She wants to butter him up, whatever, so he's not thinking ahead of her. Okay? It is what it is. Then, does he know that that $10,000 was just used for that? No. So then, she uses that to go for, so daddy from North Carolina to Colorado. Then, she gets 3 tickets. If you had not been making your house payment for 3 months and had not been making your HOA payment for the year, why would you think that then you could go for a 6-week vacation to North Carolina and then do 2 MLM trips within that? You wouldn't, and your spouse wouldn't think that could happen. So she convinced him that that $10,000 was going to just do, she just needed to make that payment. It was all there. Wasn't going to be a problem. It was a problem, and this is how we know. Because look at all of the tickets. She then bought tickets for herself, her father, Bella, and Cece to go to North Carolina. Now let's say that Bella and Cece could be on the laps. I don't think so for Bella because she was 4 and would have needed to be in a seat. You know what? They couldn't have done laps. So that's 4. That's 4 tickets because they would have needed to be in car seats. So to go from Colorado to North Carolina. When she was in North Carolina, she went on 2 MLM trips. One in DC, I believe, Virginia, somewhere like that. And then she went to one in Florida. Okay. Now we know that you can, in her spot, you could qualify for 4 per year. So we know that these other ones are ones where she was going to. I'm sure you can go to them as long as you're willing to pay for them. But the 4 that are paid for in your position, if she was buying it, whatever, she was paying to go to all of these, paying the conference fees, paying the airline fees, the rental car fees, daycare back home if she needed any, food, and then conference fees. Okay? So we've got those in there. And then she flew out Christopher from Colorado to North Carolina. And then they went to the beach while they were in North Carolina. They went and stayed in a hotel. And ultimately, she came back with him. So that's a 4 ticks again from North Carolina to Colorado. So from North Carolina to Colorado, 1, the dad. 4 tickets from Colorado to North Carolina. North Carolina to DC for her. North Carolina to Florida for her. And then Christopher to go from Colorado to North Carolina to stay in a hotel and go to the beach when they were in North Carolina. And then 4 tickets back from North Carolina to Colorado. Now, let's also figure in when she was in North Carolina for 6 weeks, what did she need there? She needed food for the girls, food for herself. Did she rent a car? Did she use her parents' car? What did she do? Whatever. Okay? This is where part of it was not figured in. The part of going back to Colorado was not figured into her initial plan. It is my opinion that she had plan B. That she was going to go and tell the other Christopher in person and make a very, very convincing argument that she was going to now be his and they were going to start their life together. And she was back home where her parents are. You know, Chris can move back home with his parents and whatever and have, you know, partial custody of the girls, whatever. But either way, they're together now. Hi, I'm yours. She knew that back home she had left the same kind of mess that she had left in North Carolina 8 years prior. That's how she did things. She went from one big inferno running out of the fire like a phoenix to the new place with a big disaster behind her. This is what she did. She knew that Christopher was going to be there in that house. It was going to get foreclosed on, and she had already moved on. That she was with the new Christopher, and she was going to say, hey, you know what? I'm filing for divorce, and I already have a new fiancé, so kiss my... and the baby isn't yours anyway. That's what she was going to do. They had gotten to that point in their relationship where there was no love. She had lust on her mind. She wasn't thinking of anything else. She had gotten every single thing that she wanted, and so what if that house in Colorado was left behind? She was going for her new man. That was her plan. That's what she was doing. That's why the Mount Fiji was. She was planning on a divorce. That's why when the news interviewed the coworkers at her mother's place, the coworker was like, yeah, she came out here because she's getting a divorce from him. Yeah, she's getting a divorce and she's got the girls, and yeah, he was real weird when he came in here and everything. Well, yeah, because you guys are all looking at him like, what are you doing? She's getting a divorce from you. He doesn't know. He knows that they're looking at him weird, but he doesn't know why. That's why. She told everybody but him that she left him. Okay? So she is out there. And as a philanderer does, when they've been bopping somebody else who's married, that person says, hi, you need to leave your wife. I'm pregnant. Down and everything. He says, no. And she's like, but you have to. And he's like, no. And she's like, but you said. He's like, no. But the leopard dress. No, I'm married. I've got 2 kids. I've got a house here. But we're good together. Everything. We can have our kids all together and we can do this. And we're having a baby. No. He said no, 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 and no. No. But everybody already thinks we're together and they always joke and everything. We're the perfect couple. No. But I love you. No. But you said. No. I can't leave my wife. I can't do that to her. You can't leave him. What will everybody think? We'll keep on going like we are. Don't think that. Everything is fine the way it is. But it wasn't. She couldn't afford to keep going on. She couldn't afford to keep exploiting and manipulating and lying to her husband because everything was catching up to her. She didn't know what to do. She had her ass covered. She had NA going and getting the mail every day in case there was anything about the house not being paid. Why else would she have had to have NA go and get the mail if indeed she had used that $10,000 to have caught up that house payment? Wouldn't have needed to happen, right? She tells him. She gets down on her knees and begs. Because she knows she can't go back to Colorado. He says no. And then she gets all mad. And she's like, I'm going to tell your wife. He's like, go ahead. I'll say you're crazy. And that was it. She was rejected. This slick guy who was everything, and when they were out of town, they were having the time of their lives. When they were out of town, they were fun. They felt alive. They weren't with their spouses. Look at the pictures of her with him. With her with him, she is lit up again. And like I say, when you see what she writes to him and encourages him, it is so different than the way that she talked to her husband. She talked to her husband despicably. She was on this other man's page every day, boosting him up. I wouldn't like that if I was his wife. I wouldn't like seeing my spouse in the arms of another woman out of town while I'm back here making all of the money in the house payment and keeping care of the children, and my spouse is off out of town. Christopher Watts was being walked on like a doormat. He kept a smile the whole time, acted like it didn't bother him, because he just loved Shanann. Thought she loved him too. She loved Christopher, but not that Christopher. She was rejected. What happened the last time that she was rejected? What happened the last time that she lost everything? What happened the last time that she didn't have any money? She didn't have a job, that she had just screwed up everything, that she was in massive debt. How did that stress affect her? She got sick. She was pregnant. She wouldn't eat. She didn't poop for 3 weeks. Her stomach was all messed up again. Everybody was worried about her. She was saying she was fainting, saying she was spotting, but yet wouldn't go to the doctor or the emergency room, seek help in any way to make sure the baby's all right. It didn't matter. She was rejected. And that man rejected her. She was a woman scorned. She was in exactly the same position that she was when she left North Carolina the first time. She was back home. She got to feel what it felt like to be a single mother, depending on her parents. She didn't like it. She wasn't getting her way. She wanted attention. She wanted his attention. She kept working on him and calling him. He wasn't taking her calls. He wasn't going to leave his wife. What was she going to do? Well, she was going to make Christopher forgive her. She was going to tell Christopher that their marriage needed to be fixed. That she was going to tell Christopher that he needed to act better, be better, go to marriage counseling, and fix things. She was going to make sure that happened. And she was going to make him think that he had not been treating her right, and they needed to fix things. But how was she going to deal with the house? Well, they were going to get a different house. She wasn't able to quite tell him that she didn't catch the house payments up, but if she was going to get him to believe that they were going to sell the house, how would he even notice? She does the money. He's not good with numbers, she thinks. So she called Anne. She said, let's put the house on the market, because she was buying time until that house was repossessed, until the sheriffs came and kicked them out. She knew it. So she had to call Anne and get that house sold. And if they needed to move into a smaller house or whatever, that's fine. She'd be able to think about how to get things fixed later on. But the house wasn't going to be able to continue to be hers. She knew that. They were talking about moving to a little city nearby. She could deal with that. Okay? She's trying to figure it out. Going to her little MLM things. Everybody's all worried about her and everything, but they don't know what's truly going on. They don't know how many lies she has buried herself in. Lies upon lies. How could she ever dig herself out of those lies? How could she ever look at the other Christopher again after he rejected her? How could she be mad about him rejecting her? She couldn't tell anybody. Only her closest friends. Because they aren't going to tell anybody, right? Oh, she can't keep a secret. People know. People know what happened, and this happened. So, she was more and more depressed. She was rejected. Her big, beautiful house that she had needed to go. She didn't know what she was going to tell anybody about why they were having to sell the house and go to a smaller house. She didn't even know she was going to be able to keep the Lexus, but it's what she was going to have to do. And as the days went by and she was dealing with Bella and Cece and all of the chaos of his parents not behaving right in her mind, she was getting more and more depressed. She was not even herself. Everybody said it, they'd never seen her like that. Oh, the dark thoughts she must have been having. Bottom line, she decided she wasn't going to be a single mother. There were two ways to deal with that. Get back with Christopher Watts, move to a little house, face the embarrassment and shame, stop going on all the vacations, quit Thrive, I mean, whatever company it was she worked at. How was she going to deal with that? How was she going to tell everybody that she wasn't doing all of that? What was she going to say? Was she going to go back to being a real bored housewife? Not even on Saratoga Trail. Real bored housewife in Brighton. Having the other Christopher's baby that he wouldn't even leave his wife for. Why would she want to eat? Why would she want to drink? She wanted to die. That would have been preferable to being what she was having to deal with in her own mind. She was dark. She was depressed. She didn't want to live. She was putting one foot in front of the other. She took out her anger on Christopher Watts. She gaslit him into thinking that he caused every single fight. She was cheating, so she made him think that he had cheated. That he was having an affair. And he was. Now on the side of Christopher Watts. What was he doing? Well, he was going along thinking that he was doing things fine. He was a good father. He was a good husband. He went to work every day. He did what Shanann said. And then she didn't get mad. He felt bad for the things that she did to the girls. But he didn't want to say anything because then she'd get mad. He could have arguably had Stockholm Syndrome. He knew she was a bitch. But he knew that he had to make her happy so that he could be happy. And the girls would be happy. But nobody was really happy. For all of the fights and all of the mind games. Did he have PTSD? Did he have complex PTSD? Yeah, probably. Was he a battered spouse? Yes. Battered doesn't mean physical. It can mean physical, but it can also be emotional, physical. She humiliated him with glee. Christopher Watts was doing the best that he could, and he was a people pleaser. Nothing mattered other than pleasing her. He did what he could. He did what he could. She had him putting on these stickers. He didn't really like the way that they felt. He said that his watch showed that his heart rate was elevated 24 hours a day. He could only sleep a maximum of 3 hours a night. He didn't know who he was anymore. He was extremely sleep deprived. He was not hitting REM sleep. He was not getting a healthy amount of sleep. But he was doing what she told him to do. And when he already had such an elevated heart rate, he could do all of those things that she wanted him to do. And he wanted to make her happy. He wanted to be the man that she wanted. Every day was the same thing for him. He couldn't even go out to eat if he wanted to. He had to eat things at home that didn't cost much. She made him not cost anything. She'd make him egg salad sandwiches and he could have those. Sometimes the girls would even throw their food at him. They'd throw their chicken nuggets because she humiliated him. They were humiliating him. He didn't feel like a real man sometimes, but that's okay. He made Shanann happy. Then, this lady at work, she was kind of noticing that he was working out. When he was working out, he was kind of feeling better about himself, and his sex drive was higher, and him and Shanann used to do it 3 times a day, and she wasn't doing it that much anymore, and he was in a high sex drive, and she was acting all kinds of weird and all obsessed with his MLM. You know, he'd stood by when she did the Amway and It Works and Origami Owl and 31, and this one she's just all into. And but she's making enough money, you know, he thinks, making more because, you know, she put him in daycare. She's a stay-at-home mom who had her kids in daycare, and daycare was $1,200 a month, $800 part-time per child. So, you know, they were making those payments. If she wasn't making that much money, how could they have been paying all of that, right? And the girls are so sick, and if he doesn't sleep, he can take better care of the girls, and you know, the girls are always sick, and anytime something comes up and he wants to talk to Shanann, it's the girls are sick, the girls need this, the girls. It's a good thing he doesn't have time to sleep. He's got so much to do. He's got so much on his shoulders, and you know, yeah, she makes him feel embarrassed, and she shames him. But this lady at work, she's being nice to him, and sometimes he thinks that there might be something to the rumors when people say that Cece isn't his, that it's the other guy's. And he doesn't like it when he sees the pictures of her with that other guy that they say is Cece's dad. But if he were to question it, she'd get so mad at him, and she doesn't not stay mad until he changes his mind and says that he didn't mean it. And so even if he meant it, it would be his fault for thinking it, and he shouldn't have even thought it, and she'd get mad at him for even having bad thoughts, and then she'd embarrass him and shame him, and he was tired of getting shamed and embarrassed, and so he wasn't even going to say anything, and he was tired of seeing all the pictures of her with the other guy. And so what was he going to do? What was he going to do? What was he going to do? This other woman's making him feel good. She likes him. Shanann's out of town. She's not going to know. What if he just did one night? What if he just went one night? One night with this other woman. She wouldn't know. She wouldn't know. I mean, with Shanann, they were never alone. Shanann always had to have her friends. Always had to have somebody there. Always had to have her parents there. Always had to have a friend there. He couldn't get Shanann alone. This woman wants to be alone with him, and it's okay, and she wants him. He was feeling wanted. There's no better feeling in the world than feeling wanted. So he just thought that he would just hang out with the other woman once. Once led to twice. Twice led to 3 times, and he really liked it. He felt alive. He felt loved. He felt valued. She was asking him what he wanted to do. She was a grown-up. She had an education. Shanann felt like a teenager. She had her little slumber parties with her friends on her MLMs, and they stay together in motels. And it's girls' night out, and it's girls' parties, and all that. And who knows? Maybe her friends know that she's sleeping with somebody else, and they're laughing at him, and he's more embarrassed and more ashamed. And look at this new one. She doesn't act like she's at slumber parties, and she doesn't have all these girls' nights out, and soon they're talking about what life could be like if she met his daughters, and she wants to show them how to grow plants, and she's nurturing, and she even said that she wants to be the one to give him a son. But his wife is pregnant. He's hoping it's a boy because he wants a boy so bad. And when he's with her, he thinks about the future, and he sees things, and he sees nature, and he sees camping, and he thinks about taking the girls camping with her. And she's smart, and she's nice. And she talks to him like he's a real man, and tells him how he could manage his money. She wouldn't take his money. She explains to him how money works. She's explaining how a future with her could be. And then the guilt. He'd feel this guilt of thinking like that, and Shanann would call and yell at him, and he would feel terrible for thinking what he was thinking with this other woman. And he'd hang up the phone, and he wasn't himself, and he felt bad, but when he was with this other woman, he was alive. They went to the Mustang Museum, the Shelby Museum, something he had always wanted to do. To the sand dunes, to nature, these things that he wished that she would do with him, but she wouldn't. There was always an excuse. There was always somewhere she had to be. There was always a place that she had to go out of town. There was always something. There was always a fight that she started. There was always yelling that she was doing. And she could be in the middle of a 6-hour rant at him, and he would just be looking at the ground, and then he would do this. And another day would turn into another day with her. He no longer wanted that. He wanted her. And so what if he could only sleep 3 hours a night? He wanted to be awake. He wanted to be alive. He had hope for the future. Things weren't great with Shanann. She knew it. He knew it. They needed to just end it. But she's pregnant. How can he leave her when she's pregnant? What if the other woman finds out she's pregnant? Now, he's gotten away with telling the other woman that he's got 2 girls, but would she understand that his wife's pregnant? Because that wouldn't work out with what he'd been telling her, that, they hadn't been together, and because they really hadn't been together, but they were together that one time. But that was because she initiated it, and she doesn't usually initiate, and it was just one time. And that one time she got pregnant. And it was so odd because we had to work and think about the other times, and and really talk about it. And he wanted a boy, and he was so confused. And he didn't know what to do. He did not know what to do. He felt guilt. But should he feel guilt for feeling so good and alive? He didn't know what he was thinking. He didn't know who he was. Was he Shanann's husband? Was he Bella and Cece and the new baby's dad? Or was he Nicole's boyfriend? Nicole was fun. She was flashy. And she made him come. Bottom line. 3 times a day and more. And all of the things she was making him do. Oh, he had not felt that in a very long time. He had not felt that ever in his life. In the beginning, when him and Shanann were new and it was great, it was fine as long as she was in an okay mood and she wasn't sick. But only when she wanted it. He cares about what she cares about what he wants, and he didn't know what to do. He did not know what to do. And then she calls up. Shanann has a big fight with his parents. He felt terrible because then his parents were mad. His mom said she couldn't deal with this anymore. His mom said, "Your wife is crazy. I don't want her in my life anymore. This has to end, Christopher." His mom called his childhood best friend and said, "Look, what is he doing? You have to straighten his head out." And his childhood best friend talked to him and said, "Look, remember, I worked with her. I worked with her. She was the one who was suspected of taking the large sum of money. It wasn't me. It wasn't this coworker. It was her, Christopher. She's not good. She's doing this to your parents. She's ruining your fucking life, Christopher. Leave her ass." And then Shanann would call, and Shanann's mother would call, and the two of them would call, and he'd just get off the phone. He couldn't deal with it. For a couple of weeks, he went on, and he was only dealing with it a few minutes a day, and he was enjoying every minute with Nicole. Every waking minute he had. But then, as all summers do, they end. And while she's getting in fights with her parents and his parents and everybody else because she's a rejected, scorned, miserable, moping woman who hadn't pooped in 3 weeks and wouldn't eat and wouldn't drink and said that she could barely walk, was then coming home, and he had to go out there and be with her, and she'd been sending these nasty grams to him, and he didn't know what to do. He knew it was the right thing to make up with her and be a good husband, and they were tired of not being able to afford other things, so they were going to sell the house, definitely. When she wasn't around and NK was around, yeah, he could say he's going to leave her and everything, but Shanann could sell anything. She could sell anything, and it was Shanann's prerogative to get back together because her plan, moving to North Carolina and getting together with the other man, who's the father of the baby, didn't work out. So she goes back to the default. The one she doesn't really love, but the one that works. And the one that will do in her mind. And she didn't have to worry. He didn't know everything that was going on. She had Nicole getting the mail. He was at work every day. Nicole's getting the mail every day so that he can't see that the house payment wasn't caught up. That at any day now the house was going to be repossessed. She's got it covered. She's got her lies covered up. The HOA thing, she can say it was going to the wrong address, whatever. She said that she'll figure it out, whatever. Right? That one she's not so worried about, but he may or may not even know about that. We don't know. He comes to North Carolina. He sees her. His stomach turns. He's full of guilt for what he's been doing. He knows that if she looks at him, she's gonna figure it out. She's gonna smell something on him. She's gonna see something. The guilt he can't deal with, and she can't stand him. She's so mad about everything. She's mad that he made her be a mother. She doesn't want to be a single mother. She didn't want kids. She said she couldn't have them. He talked her into having kids. He made her pregnant. He wanted a boy. He did this to her, so now he can pay for it. That's how she saw it. They fought the whole time in North Carolina. She wasn't going to be alone with them. She never was going to be alone with him. She didn't know what he'd say if she was ever alone with him. Even when she went for the little getaway, she brought Daddy with her, so that if Christopher ever did step up, he'd get his ass knocked all the way back outside. He had to go back to the bad mommy. He loved what he had with Nicole. He loved the life he had just had for a month. He couldn't tell her about it. He couldn't tell her how happy he was. He couldn't tell her. And if he worked it out with her, how was he going to go and tell Nicole? Hey, I went to North Carolina and we did work it all out. Thanks for letting me fuck you. He didn't want to do that. He didn't want to break her heart. He didn't want to let her go. She's the one. And her? Well, she's not going to tell him that she was fucking around. She's going to make him pay for every thought that he's ever had, because people do that. People who are possessive, they do that. She just got a lucky guess that he actually had finally grown a little bit of a spine and went and lived a little bit of his adult life. But otherwise, she was just going to make him think it until he actually believed that he did. But he actually did. And it was miserable, and he was miserable, and he didn't want it. And the both of them were miserable together. And they flew home. And she's trying to sell the dream that, we're going to work on this marriage and it's going to be better. And she can't convince herself, so she certainly cannot convince him. He can't believe it. He doesn't want to believe it. But he's going along with it. They fly home. Friends are talking her into everything and telling her how wonderful everything is and that she needs to do this and she needs to do this. Everything's going to be fine. They don't know what she's really dealing with. She's worried about what these friends are going to think when they find out that she's been lying. She hasn't even been making the house payment. She's not even pregnant with Christopher's baby. She's pregnant with the other Christopher's baby. But she's a lie. She's been having affairs. She can't afford this lifestyle. All of these friends that she has made based on this MLM are false friendships. And they're not going to be her friends when they find out that she wasn't making the house payment. That she locks her girls up like that. That she doesn't feed them. That she's the one making them sick. What was it going to look like when all of a sudden she comes back home and the girls look better than they ever have? Because she wasn't alone with them. It was going to make people think that she couldn't be a good mom by herself. That her mom was a better mom. She felt that. She feared that. And what was she going to do? Go and be bored in a dumb house she didn't want, with a dumb car she didn't want. No one understood. She didn't want this, and she told her mom. She told her mom everything, and her mom knew. Her mom knew, and her mom was worried that she was going to do something. She told Nicole, watch her. If she does anything, call me. So she's at this last little MLM snafu, whatever you want to call it, get together. And she looks so sick that, her friend who was a nurse, even, checks her blood sugar, and it's not good. She's sick. They're all telling her to go to the doctor, drink, eat, do this, and they don't know what's really going on. They don't know that she's living a lie, that she's not made the house payment. The house is going to get foreclosed upon. What if the house gets foreclosed upon while she's right there? And Christopher calls her up. He's on the street with the girls. All of the neighbors are going to see. Everybody's going to know that she was lying. What else was she lying about? Are they going to laugh at her? What is she going to do? She couldn't tell them what was really going on. They didn't know. So they just think that, oh, that dog Christopher has been treating her terribly, right? That dirty dog. He's been doing bad things. And she's like, yeah, it's Christopher. Because if she can get them all focused on Christopher not being nice to her and not being a good husband, and that everything's so sweet and simple, and that she can write these little heart letters and everything, they're going to believe it, and they're going to be focused on Christopher not being good to her. And they're all going to help her make Christopher be better to her, and then she's going to be better, right? Yeah, sure. The thoughts in her mind must have been so scary. Thoughts in her mind might have even been that she told Aunt A, or she told her mother, that she was going to take a bunch of pills and it was going to be over. So Aunt A is afraid with her. And then the unthinkable happened. Aunt A was not there to get the mail. SW wasn't there to get the mail. And a certified letter came that said that the house was in foreclosure and that the sheriffs would be taking it. It's the only thing that makes sense. They were both gone. NA and SW were both gone. And Christopher got the mail that Saturday. He saw on paper that she had not made the house payment with that $10,000. He knew they were losing the house. That's what was on the seat of the Lexus. When he went into the Lexus and opened up that door and tried to push something aside, it was that piece of mail that he got. He knew. He knew. And she knew that he knew. That's why she was so upset and so scared. She wasn't going to be there to get the mail. She comes in the house, sees it on the counter. She knows he knows. She goes, drinks. She doesn't care to wake up. As she drinks, she gets more and more mad. She drinks and she drinks. And that is why and how her blood alcohol level was 3 times the limit of being unable to drive and nowhere near what decomp would be. And she drank and she drank and she got enraged as she went. She knew that he knew. He put it there for her to see. He put it there for them to talk about. The flight was delayed. He was going to stay awake. But, as he had been run ragged, only sleeping 3 hours a night, her flight was delayed, and he fell asleep. I believe that she took her pills. The oxycodone that was not being filled legally or regularly, the pills that she threatened to take, and that is why I believe that that's the first thing that NA checked when she found the purse, was she checked the bottle of oxycodone. She knew how many were in there. I believe that she took some pills. I believe that she drank as much alcohol as she could, and she became rageful, and she was not going to be a single mother. She was not going to have this baby. She knew that he knew that the house was going to be taken. There was going to be no house. She knew that everybody was going to know that she was a liar, a fraud, that nothing was true that she put on her Facebook. All of the friends that she had were not going to be her friends because she had lied to them. She was not anything that she said that she was. Maybe they would have still wanted to be her friend, but who knows? She didn't think so. It is my opinion then that Christopher Watts got that mail, that he was driving in from the birthday party. Mail came certified. He's with the girls in the car. He signs for it. He opens it up fast. So fast. Brings it in. He's confused. He left half of it in the Lexus. It's motive. It's motive. It's motive to be absolutely infuriated. He can't control the rage that is brewing inside of him. All of these thoughts are going through his head. He gets this piece of mail. He thinks about everything. He thinks about all of the clothes that she was buying to look good for these MLMs, the makeup, the hair, so that, she would have everything at those MLMs. Everything to her was MLMs. It wasn't him anymore. It was her MLMs. It was her getaways, her vacations with another man. That he was going to work every day and she was taking his money so she could go away and not with him. She'd leave him with the kids. She was making him work for her to go away without him. He was done. He couldn't think. He's sitting there waiting for her. He starts considering everything. If she's been lying about making the house payment, what else was she lying about? He starts thinking about, is the baby not even his? How long has she been lying to him about the money? That's financial abuse. He's not thinking, oh, that's financial abuse, but it is. He feels like a fool that, he's been used. That she uses the kids against him, their sicknesses, everything. I believe that she was setting him up to use and say that he was essaying the girls. He didn't feel like he could win in a divorce because she was going to say that. He didn't know what to do. He was rageful. He went to sleep with that rage. She comes in, sees that on the counter, lays it right out there for her. She knows she's done. How's she going to face him? What can she say? She drinks. She takes the pills. She gets enraged. She's done. She knows what she has to do, and she starts to do it. She goes into one girl's room, does the unthinkable. Goes to the next girl's room, does the unthinkable. Well, the unthinkable is happening, and she is in a drunken rage. He hears something. He has not been sleeping more than 3 hours a night. For how long? He is so sleep deprived. He's not had REM. He went to bed in a rage. He comes in, sees what she's doing. He doesn't even have time to form a thought. There was no premeditation. He acted. He was not even awake. He was in a sleep psychosis. He unalives her. He doesn't even think. The rage he felt. It was over. It was over quick, and everything was gone. He's in a sleep stupor. He can't believe what's happening. He doesn't know what to do. When he explains that night, he said a demon came, like not necessarily a demon. Maybe he has said the word demon recently. That's why it maybe just fell out of my mouth. But he said an entity. That's what he said an entity came over him. That he doesn't know what it was, that an entity came over him, that there was somebody behind him, that there was somebody doing this. It was not him. It was an entity that came over him and did these actions. He was experiencing a sleep psychosis. According to the Yale School of Medicine, sleep psychosis can happen from lack of sleep. You need to have sleep so that you're hitting REM. Your brain is resting. You're healing your brain. You're having relaxation. The stickers that he had on, he said, made his heart rate raise. 24 hours a day. His watch showed that he was exercising 24 hours a day. That meant those stickers were putting his heart in a stressful state. You can't exercise 24 hours a day. That is, whatever was in those stickers was caffeine, was whatever. There was the case of the Red Bull, and caffeine is a murder defense, and I think that one was dismissed. But the psychosis that he could have experienced was very much related to him not sleeping. And he said that it was once he put on those patches made him feel different. They did not allow him to sleep. Whatever was in those patches at that time needed to be evaluated. His blood needed to be evaluated. One of you amazing truth warriors put in the comments about how terrible it must have been for him to have went through withdrawal from whatever the hell was in his system, in a jail cell, because whatever was in him had to be stopped abruptly. Remember when he said that he was seeing demons in his cell, and he was seeing that was withdrawal from whatever was in those patches. In the discovery, it states that they had one of her friends bring in a sample of all of the products, and that was to be sent to the lab for evaluation. Those results are not in the discovery. They took them and then they did not post what was in them. Why did they not post what was in them? What happened from A to B? Did what they see was in those patches show something that would have very well been enough to have provided a defense to Christopher Watts? And so they got rid of that. And what do you know, from that time, that formula was changed? All of that money that it would take to make an outdoor kitchen, I can't even imagine how much money that would take. But it's almost like maybe that company wanted to give a generous donation for what had happened. Allegedly. Sleep psychosis, according to the Yale School of Law, can cause confused thinking, racing thoughts. Sleep deprivation can cause this psychosis. With this psychosis, you can have false beliefs, delusions, hallucinations of all five senses. You can have changed feelings. You can have dampened emotional responses. You can have erratic or unusual behavior compared to a person's baseline. That sounds like a defense. That sounds like a very strong defense. That sounds like something that could be used to give Christopher Watts a fair trial by jury under a 35C with the new information that is out there, such as this, that was never considered. When Christopher Watts said that he didn't know he was going to be in prison for the rest of his life, that tells me that his public defender did not explain to him exactly what he was sacrificing when he gave up his right to a trial by jury or a defense of any kind. If he did not know that he was going to spend life in prison without the possibility of parole, what did they tell him? He was out of his mind. Sleeping 3 hours a night for how long? And this was acceptable to her because it made it look good on her social media that her husband was operating well, was going and working out and losing weight and looking better and able to perform more household tasks and could do yard work with children strapped to his back and put them on him while he's doing push-ups? Don't you want to be like me too? And go out of town and be in the arms of another man? And never ever have to worry about your household again? What the was going on there? Who thought that was a perfect marriage? The problem is that Sandra knew this when she